Alright, I'm putting this attenuator on. It came with gasket, or the gasket kit came with these gaskets. I thought it'd be nicer if I could put them on the cars. There's just no way I can line them up. There's no room to see what you're doing back there. So I stuck them on here, and they're lined up with the bolt holes, so it should be perfectly lined up. Where did I put my bolts? Okay, guys and gals, last video showed I was messing with the attenuator. I'll tell you what, there's not a lot of room to get that thing in there. It's the hose on the fuel enrichment valve was hitting it just enough to push it, so I had to kind of move that to get the thing in. It's tight. There's a ski pole right there it's hitting. Could take that ski pole out, but that'd be a pain. So it did fit in there. I've got it in. I've taken it up and I've taken it out and started it a few times in the driveway. Testing, I want to test to make sure the water is going through and keeping it cool. That's why I bought this laser temperature gun to check, to make sure it's not overheating. And you're supposed to start it first, what I've read, start it first, then connect this hose to this flush out valve, and theoretically you can keep it running on this flush out valve at idle. As long as it's idling, it shouldn't overheat. I've heard people say this engine, just idling in the lake, they get overheating. You know, the alarm goes off and they have to speed it up to, so water flow is not cooling the engine down. I don't know, but anyway, I put the water on here, started up, put the water in here, and water's flowing through the jet pump that's coming out the exhaust. And the cylinder head, I'm watching it heat up, and this number 1 would be, I don't know, 10, 15 degrees hotter than number 3, 135. Is that normal? I don't know. Maybe. Why would that top one get hotter? Same thing over here though. This one would get warmer than these guys. They're all within 15 degrees, but this one always seems to be the hottest. I thought, is water getting there? And in my mind, I'm thinking, if it gets close to 200 degrees, I'm shutting it down. So I'm keep watching, and it's running maybe a couple minutes, and it keeps climbing, and it hits close to 200. I shut the thing down, turn the water off, shut it down, because I didn't want to ruin my heads on the engine, or overheat the pistons, cylinder, all that kind of stuff. So I thought, well, how do I know if water is getting to there? There's no procedure in the manual. There's a pressure gauge. You can put a pressure gauge here and check the pressure, but I don't think any water is getting there. So I saw another video where a guy had this motor sitting on a bench, or actually on a crate on the ground, and he had water coming in, not off of that flush valve. I think he had it, I can't remember if he had a plug in here or plugged over on this side, but water was flowing through, and he had this connection off this overflow disconnected on where this connection for the what do you call this thing, thermostat would be, and water was just shooting out here. So definitely he's got water going. But when I tried it, I would get like a little dribble maybe, or maybe just a little steam coming out. So I'm thinking there should be a lot more water coming out than that. That means this head is not getting any water. I'm looking, what's the procedure? How should, some people say you should be able to run it like that, but I'm thinking there's no water getting to that. It's not keeping it cool. So what I want to do is, and another thing, I saw a guy, he was having a problem with his engine overheating, and he took the thermostat out, and he had it's this motor, but it wasn't on a sport jet. It was an outboard motor, same motor, but that's different. The outboard has a pump down below that pumps it up. He took this connection off and looked inside, and his thermostat was bad. So, well, maybe my thermostat's bad. So I took this thing off. There's no thermostat in there. So is that normal? So I went and looked in the parts catalog, looked in the manual. I don't see where there's a thermostat available for this sport jet motor, and you can't order one in Mercury's parts catalog, which has they have every part on this engine. So if they don't show it, I'm thinking this engine maybe doesn't have a thermostat. So water should be flowing through that. There's no thermostat shutting it off. Water should be going, but it's not. So my next step, I believe, is to take it to the lake, to put it in at the dock, put it in the water, and just fire it up and see. I'll keep this hose off to see if water flows and comes shooting out of here. Hopefully it does. And if it does, then I can also test the temperature of the heads. I'll put the hose back on, check the temperature to make sure it's staying cool. Guys are saying, yeah, it should be definitely around 165 or lower. You would think it would depend on the temperature of the lake too. If you're in 30-degree water or 70-degree water, would that make a difference? With no thermostats, it's kind of dependent on the temperature of the lake, right? But that's where I'm at right now. I have a few things I need to do. I need to strap down the battery. The battery holder was cracked. I welded that all back together with a soldering iron, and I've got to bolt that down. I don't plan on jumping waves with this thing anytime soon for testing purposes, but I don't want that thing to move around in there either, so I've got to strap that down. And I also want to zip tie some of these cables down so they don't go banging around. Other than that, it's almost ready to go. I have to fix my taillights. They're not working on the trailer. At least one of them's not working. I'll make sure those are working so I can take it there legally. Nothing bugs me more than I see people driving down the road with no taillights on their trailer, or one taillight. So got to get that fixed, and I wanted to do it this week. Today's October 31st in Michigan. It was 70 degrees, 70 plus degrees yesterday. It was warm. It's been warm the last 2 weeks. I could have had it in the lake. And typically in Michigan, it's not that warm in October. It snows in October here. It's like we've had a foot of snow on October 13th before. But there's still a few more days that I should be able to get in the lake. So hopefully, maybe next week I can pop it in. I want to get this in the water. I want you guys to be able to see it go. I want to see it go. So hopefully I can get that video up and running, or get that video up for you guys, and that's where we're at. Next step though, put it in the water, make sure we're getting water cooling off that engine. But it runs. I'm happy that it's running. It seems to be running okay. The idle seems a little high. It's like 1,500. I think it's supposed to be like 1,100. So I might check to make sure that the idle screws are right where they're supposed to be. I never messed with them at all. I left them wherever however I bought it. I was just assuming that was probably correct, but I think it's a little bit high. So I'll adjust that, possibly. But other than that, it's, it runs. I'm happy that it's running. A little tricky. I gotta figure out how to start it when it's cold. And I don't know if it's my enrichment valve that is not working correctly, or I just don't know how to work it. The key on this boat, you turn it, you can push it in. It's supposed to prime it or choke it on a normal boat. But I've heard on this boat, that button it doesn't work. That push button does nothing. You turn the key. In one place I've read, the enrichment valve will actually warm up. There's a wax ball in there that somehow, when the wax melts, it heats up. When you turn the key, it heats up, and then it pushes fluid, the gas, to the carburetors. I have no clue how that works. That's how the guy said it worked anyway. So the way you can test it, you can turn the key, then hold your hands on that valve, see if it's getting warm. If it's getting warm, it's working. So I'll try that. Other than that, I just have to turn the key, I don't know, 10, 15 times, and finally it'll start. Seems like a little too much of a pain. But I'll check that too to see if that's what I need to do. There's nothing I've never read anything in a manual on how to officially start it. And I've got the operator's manual, I've got the parts manual, I've got the maintenance manual, but it doesn't tell you how to start it, the procedure. So hopefully when I figure it out, I'll let you guys know. and then you'll have another source, a reference. Been working on my trailer lights. All of them work except there's side marker lights that one was not working on this side. I think there was like 10 of them on this whole 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 marker lights, and they're really cool. They've got little bullet connectors. I love them, and they do still make similar ones, but they're kind of expensive, like 20 bucks a piece, the ones I saw. And so I found these on Amazon, these LEDs. I think I got like a dozen of them for like 10 bucks, maybe 20, I can't remember. It was dirt cheap, cheaper than one of these. So I'm going with LEDs. I bought LED bulbs to put in here so they are quick and bright. And the marker lights they had here were pretty chintzy, and they were falling down, they're just stuck on, so I drilled holes to mount these guys in and bring new wires in. So I'm gonna have 3 real red guys down here. You guys probably don't need to watch this video, so I don't know, maybe I'll make it run just so you can see it, but it's painful watching me solder because my soldering gun used to get super hot, super fast, and it's not anymore. And I don't know if my tip is bad, if I need a new tip, or if I need a new gun. I'm thinking it's just the tip. But I was having a hard time just tinning wires with it yesterday, and that's never the case. This thing usually heats up super quick. So I'm going to tin these wires and then put new bullet ends on. I bought these bullet connectors on Amazon for like 10 bucks. And so I need to crimp them down, and I can't find my crimping tool. I've got at least 2 of them. I think my son has them, possibly. We have a box of electrical tools that we pass back and forth because what do you need 2 of everything for? But now I can use it. So I'll figure out another way to crimp these down, or I'll have to go find that tool for my son. But I'm going to crimp all these guys, put those lights in. There's one last day, it's November 17th. It's supposed to be nice tomorrow, but I don't think I'm going to get it in the lake this year. After that, it's going to be in the 40s, and I'm not going to feel like going out on the lake in 40-degree weather. So tomorrow's supposed to be in the 60s, but I don't know. There's just some other things I need to do. Still need to just clamp down the battery. Haven't got to that yet. And I've been finding other things. This anode down here on the boat, I'm gonna replace that. It's pretty rusty. There's a gasket I need to replace on the drain plug on this side. My grates on the bottom, there's one of the tines that are broken. The thing's like $300, and I can't find a cheap one anywhere. So it'll run without it. I sure wouldn't want to get something stuck in there, but I'll probably test it without changing that grate out. Maybe I'll change it later this winter. But I'm feeling good. The lights on the trailer wasn't a big deal. It's just taking some time to get everything in the right spot. So that's what I'm working on. Boy, it's hard to get up and down anymore. It's like yesterday, it was killing me. Just working on the cement all day. Man, you get in your 60s and you can't do stuff like you used to. Okay, so I just finished up the trailer. Actually, I still have to button up the wires, but everything's run. The new wires are run, new lights. These are the lights that were in it. Little bullet connections on the back. And I like them, but I think they're like 20-some bucks each to replace. And I have like 9 on this trailer, plus the middle ones weren't that type. They were something else. So I bought these guys on Amazon. There's like, I think there's like 5 red and 5 yellow LEDs for 20 bucks or something like that. So, show you what they look like. Got a battery on the front just to test them out. Hold on a second. 3, 2, 1. I think they look great. plus LEDs draw less power, right? So I put LED bulbs in here. They're, what do they look like? Anyway, you know LED bulbs. They're not incandescent. They're LEDs, so should draw less power as well and be brighter and faster. So anyway, I think it looks good. What do you think? Okay, new video that's going to supersede one that I probably won't even upload because it was so full of misinformation from me. But you know, you look for information, you can't find it. I have the maintenance manual for the motor, and I have the owner's manual for the boat, and I have, what else do I have? Parts catalog is online, and I was trying to figure out how to test this thing, test the motor, make sure the water's flowing through here, and the maintenance manual says that you can test it by putting a pressure gauge right here, but I had this line off right here, that comes off this where the thermostat would be on the head, and there was barely any water going through there when I connected the water to that water connection up there and ran the garden hose, you know, water through it. And so I wanted to know how to, you know, run the, you know, to keep the thing cool, to make sure that, you know, it's not going to overheat on me and I put the, you know, the laser temperature gauge on the heads, and they were climbing faster than I wanted. And anyway, I found a manual that tells a procedure, because it was like, do you turn the water on first? People say, yeah, you can hydrolock the engine. No, that's only on certain models. That's only on the C2 engines. I've got the manual. Apparently the Facebook page that I'm on, it's Mercury powered C2 boats. They don't have that manual, and so there's other forums that used to have it, and now they don't because Mercury says you can't put it online. So I wrote Mercury and I says, hey, my manual says, because I want to know how to start the engine. There's no procedure on how to start it. When this thing's cold, it seems like I gotta crank it forever to get it to start, and it starts up. But that can't be normal. So I wanted the manual, couldn't find it online. I wrote Mercury and they sent me a PDF of the manual. And on this guy, the manual says, turn the water on first, then start it. Make sure water's going through. So don't even start this for a little while because you could ruin the pump. I don't know if I believe that, but take it for what it is. That's what they said to do. Turn the water on here first, and then start it. Make sure water's going through. So that's that procedure. How to start it? On this guy, you turn the key, and you should get enrichment going on the enrichment valve if the throttle is all the way down. If you got any throttle at all, that valve doesn't work. I have to test that yet, but and what they say is turn the key, and if it doesn't start within 10 seconds, turn it back to run, not off. Keep it on run for about 30 seconds, and try it again. So maybe that enrichment valve runs when it's in the run position. There's also a push button, and I'm not so sure that doesn't work. So I have to do some more testing to that. The manual doesn't say anything about the push button on the key switch. So I will test that as well, but I actually have the manual now on how to, what's the procedure. Their Mercury manual says, and this is the Mercury M2 Operator's Guide. So that's the operator's guide for this motor. They say, hook up the hose, turn the water on, then go start it. And then it says you can run it for as long as you want, as long as it's idling, not above idle. And it says that when you have it out in salt water, which I don't have. We're in Michigan, there's fresh water here, which is great. So I'll never have to worry about flushing out salt water, but they say you should run it at least 10 minutes. Well, I can't do that right now because I mean, I've had to start it up in the driveway within 5 minutes. That head is way warmer than I think it should be. It's, you know, pushing 200 degrees, and that can't be right. So I'll try that procedure they said first. Run the water through, but I don't see how that makes any difference. So there you go. Anyway, that's where we're at right now. It's December, or not December, it's November 20th. It's cold. Michigan's supposed to snow tomorrow, so I'm not going to be able to test this. The nice thing is, though, I'm probably not going to upload these videos until the spring, so you won't know it. I'll have this thing in the water, hopefully, if all goes well, next spring, and when I do load these, they'll be in order so that you won't have to wait long to know if this thing works in the water or not. Right now, I mean, I'm going to have to wait a couple of months. It's December, January, February, March. March, there shouldn't be no ice on the water, and we get warm days in March, so it's going to be 3 months before I can test this guy. But there's things I need to do. I still need to clamp down the battery. I want to buff this thing out, so I'll buff it out, and maybe I'll reupholster the seats. I want to do that too. My idea was, well, let's make sure all this stuff works before I do all that work. I'm pretty confident this thing's going to run, and if it doesn't, if something happens, I'm fairly confident I can rebuild it. Unless I put a hole through the side, and then, you know, I can get a new block. So I'm confident I can rebuild it if there's an issue. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and make it nice. It's kind of dirty. I'm going to polish it up, buff it up this summer or this winter. I'm going to leave the hatch off until I test it. It's just easier to get to the engine and check things out. And once I know it's working okay, I'll put the hatch back on as well. Other than that, I think that's a good update. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully it won't be too long and we'll be able to put this in the water and we'll watch it go.